Now, for those of you who've been with me since the early days, you might remember I tackled a list like this way back. Consider this a major redux or a complete redo and a fresh take on my evolving love for the King of the Monsters. A lot has changed, new films have come out since then, and my perspectives have definitely shifted. But before we dive into this beast of a ranking, I need to make one thing crystal clear. These are my opinions, and my opinions alone. This is not fact. This is not the definitive, universally agreed upon list. Your entries will undoubtedly differ from mine, and that's totally okay. In fact, I encourage it. Let's get a healthy debate going in the comments below. So sit down, grab some popcorn, and let me list my top 38 Godzilla films of all time. Toho really screwed the pooch with it, and the characters, the story just goes in this crazy direction where, like, now all of a sudden there's this stuff that takes over people, the nano metal or whatever it was. They kill off a lot of characters. Mechagodzilla was going to be in it, but now he just got reduced to a living city. So it's so weird. Everything that they talked about made no sense. There was so much scientific garble, whatever, and I just couldn't get behind it. I was like, no, I don't know what's going on. Godzilla versus the Sea Monster. Strongly dislike it. God, Godzilla versus the Sea Monster is so boring to me. It is so boring. The only thing that was interesting, I guess, was seeing Akira Takarada again, and then I can't remember the actor's name, but the actor who played as Dr. Serizawa in the first film, that he came back and played as a villain. He was cool in that, but in terms of the film itself, I just can't. I don't like the suit. I don't like Ibra. Mothra's in it again for some dumb reason. Long, slow, not a film for me. If you put this film on, I will fall asleep. Godzilla's Revenge. There are certain aspects of Godzilla's Revenge that, as time has moved on, I have sort of enjoyed it over time. Like, it sort of has grown on me in a little bit. I think one of the big reasons why Godzilla's Revenge has grown on me compared to the other Showa films is Gabra, and the fact that I did like the Gabra's Bad Day. So I think, like, the reason I have that is it's funny. I don't know. So, Ichiro, I mean, the human stuff was laughable too. I think, despite the stock footage used, right? The amount of stock footage, it's like, it's funny in a way. The Gabra stuff. I don't know. And also just seeing Minya get his butt kicked. I don't know. It's just kind of funny to me. So, Son of Godzilla, I'm not a fan of Minya at all. Not a fan of Gamakris. Not a fan of Kumonga. I feel like those monsters, I mean, it's cool to see them in newer material, but I think the bug creatures, for some reason, I just never got behind, and I just never gravitated towards that. I will say there are cute moments in Son of Godzilla for sure, like when Minya's playing with Godzilla while he's sleeping, and he's like jumping around his tail, and he's like, there's funny bits. The Godzilla suit in this one, like the worst. The Son of Godzilla suit is the worst looking suit in my opinion. It is horrible. It is really bad. I dislike Mothra vs. Godzilla. I think it's so overrated. I don't understand why people say that this is like one of the pinnacle of Godzilla. I don't understand why. It stems from a few reasons. The fact that I'm not a big fan of Mothra to begin with. I wouldn't say hatred, but my dislike for Mothra is only because she shoehorned herself into so many different Godzilla films, and she keeps on dying, and it's, I don't know, I've never been that big of a fan of Mothra. And then Godzilla, for some reason in this film, is a complete and utter doofus. Like, the suit is great. I love the suit, but he's clumsy, and he gets not killed, but he gets defeated by two Mothra larvas, and I've always looked at it as he got defeated by two turds, and I've never liked that. And as a kid, when I watched Mothra vs. Godzilla, I was so angry at the film when at the end. I was like, are you kidding me? Godzilla got killed by little Mothra larvas? Like, and that's what started my disdain for Mothra. And the characters I don't really care about, the greedy businessman, it's like, nah, whatever. I've never understood why this film is so popular. I've just never understood with it. Godzilla Raids Again. I dislike Raids Again because it just was a shoddily put together sequel, and the fight scenes weren't that great. The story was not intriguing. I mean, there are a few things that are good about it. Anguirus, it was the introduction to Anguirus, which is fantastic. And then it was the first movie to have monsters fight each other, pretty much. Like, it was the first versus film. So, you got to give it some credit in terms of pioneering some of the stuff. Destroy all monsters. But I've never understood the reason why it is so held at such a high regard, because the story, extremely slow and boring to me. The characters, I just never ever care about. And by the time and I'm not gonna lie though, at this point, I would say the Showa series, at least one thing I can give it, the special effects was like peak. I'd say at this point, the whole team, since it was, they thought it was going to be the final film, putting everything into it, they were on their A game when it came to like the special effects. The suits look great. I love the 68 Godzilla suit. That's like one of the most classic, iconic suits. But again, the ending is also what really got me. As a kid watching it, I was so hyped to have this final battle where King Ghidorah is fighting all the monsters that we've seen prior. But King Ghidorah just gets completely slammed down and there's like no chance for him. And it's just sort of this anticlimactic battle. And it's like, oh, okay, that was... Then you had that saucer at the end that's like flaming or whatever. I thought that was going to be like a new monster and it just turned out to be one of the UFOs. So it's like, oh, okay. The aliens, what are they? What, the Keylok or whatever was that they're one of the most not memorable at all in terms of alien bad guys. So there's just not a lot for Destroy All Monsters for me. It's just, again, special effects and the scenes where the monsters are there is really good. Really, in terms of everything else, it's not there. All right, Godzilla vs. Mothra. This is, to be honest, this is the only film out of the Heisei series that I dislike. There's a lot of downgrades in quality for the Heisei series. Godzilla's roar went extremely higher pitch. It didn't have that bellowing 84 roar that they kept for the first 3 films, and then they just dropped it to have this higher pitch roar. Godzilla seemed to be nerfed a little bit. His beam effect too, like weird sound effect too, very light. Mothra herself was just way too puppet-like, and I don't know, she just didn't feel realistic. As iconic and as much as I love Heisei, I just can't get behind this film. It's just boring. The characters are not interesting, and the final battle is not interesting because Godzilla is just fighting 2 flying puppets. Like I can't get behind it. It's just not that interesting to watch. I will say the one good thing about Godzilla vs. Mothra is Batra. Batra is probably the only thing about the film that is awesome. And I hate the fact that we've never seen Batra again. So, Monster Planet was a very promising start. Very promising start to this cool new thing. Godzilla's never had an anime. It'd be so cool. It was just a very promising start. Everything about it, the setup was really cool. The human characters were somewhat interesting, even though maybe a little bit annoying. But in terms of anime, it was kind of tropey too. I mean, the main character being this angsty guy, that's been done plenty of times. By the time the 3rd film came out, I had an open mind about it, and I think that the 3rd film at least had a climactic ending. I think that it got better. In my opinion, I think it's the best out of the trilogy. I mean, that's not saying much, I know, but in terms of the trilogy itself, I do think that it at least was more engaging because it was the climax, it was the finale, things were starting to close and all that. But what kills the film is the ending. It's like, oh my god, he decides to fly off and get killed by Godzilla at the end or something like that. Like, it was such a weird way to end this whole trilogy after all they fought for, after all Haruo worked for. At the end, he dies for nothing. He just like kills himself, and it's like, oh my gosh, like, why? The sci-fi Toho stuff never really gravitated towards me, and I've seen actually a few other Toho films that are like, you know, sci-fi stuff, like the Mysterian. I think it's like the old retro 60s sci-fi style of things just never really gravitated towards me. I never really fully got attached to that kind of stuff. I'm more of a modern sci-fi style of things. Invasion of the Astro Monster, you know, being I would consider it a direct sequel to Ghidorah the Three-Eyed Monster. I just feel like I mean, I understand the story is I guess better. To me, it just didn't hit those marks. I mean, the characters are memorable. I mean, I'm not gonna lie, like what Nick Adam, fantastic actor, I guess, for what it was, and it was cool, you know, having Akira Takarada with an American actor. That was also a pioneering thing with this film, trying to include, you know, different nationalities of actors, I guess. You know, that was cool. The final battle, I mean, the monsters are only in the film for like, what, 5 minutes? And the final battle is so anticlimactic. So it really, the film feels like the monsters are an afterthought. Godzilla vs. Gigan is the take it or leave it for me. I can't stand anything when it comes to the human stuff. The human drama, the human storyline, I don't like. It's boring. I don't care about the characters. The alien bad guys are annoying. I don't like them at all. But then the monster stuff is actually pretty damn cool. I like the fact that this film has a meaty climax where it's like almost 30 minutes of a final battle. I would say it's the final battle that really saves the film for me, and it's Gigan. I mean, Gigan, having this monster introduced and having it be this tag team battle with Godzilla and Anguirus versus Gigan and King Ghidorah was just so awesome. King Ghidorah, though, was done dirty in this one. King Ghidorah barely did anything, and that suit by this time was looking real raggedy. Although, actually, Godzilla, I remember actually too, Godzilla's suit also was getting real raggedy at this point. Yeah, the part with Godzilla with talking, that was also sort of an iconic but weird moment. But it's a meh for me. It's a take it or leave. Like, if I ever put this film on, I always skip to the final battle because I just do not want to watch the rest of it. So Godzilla versus Megalon. Human stuff sucks. Storyline sucks. Boring. Takes forever. Then when it gets to the monster stuff, it's very fun. And I love Megalon and Jet Jaguar. They bring over Gigan, which is fantastic. And then you have this new character, Megalon, which is like, for some reason, Megalon too. Like, I just love Megalon. It's kind of like, it's the same thing with Hedorah. I love Megalon, and I also love Hedorah. They're sort of in the same boat. This is my favorite Showa suit, is this next set of movies, is the 73 to 75 suit. I love this suit. Don't like the human stuff, but the final battle, so fun to watch. Like, I love watching the Godzilla vs. Megalon fight every time. Godzilla vs. Mechagodzilla. This is the only Millennium film that I would say a meh. As a kid, I was confused because I thought it was a sequel because it was the same Godzilla suit, but nope, it's not. It's a completely different thing. And this is what made the Millennium series very unique, is that all the movies were their own separate canonicity, whatever. But I don't know. Again, it's a giant bug flying creature, and I just can't gravitate to her. So Mechagodzilla herself, I've just never been a fan of. The last battle's cool though. I do like the final battle in this film. It is very fun, and the music's great too. For some reason, the film's just kind of like, you know, like I could watch it and maybe be entertained, but then I might also fall asleep. So that's why it's at a meh category. Again, not saying it's bad or good. It's just Tokyo SOS, for me, dropped the ball. I don't know what is with Mothra, but it's like when she pops in, she overtakes the film. You have Godzilla versus Kiryu, and it was like, yes, I just want these two guys to fight. At the end, Godzilla's walking away with the scar on his chest, and they're like, we're gonna get you, and it's on the cliffhanger. And they come back, and it's essentially, Kiryu is now not as big of an important thing. I mean, he's still important, integral to the series, or to the film, but it's like Mothra is now all of a sudden pushed into this universe. Why? Like, why does Mothra have to be here? That's one aspect I don't like. In terms of the special effects and just the way the film looks in terms of visuals, this is the best looking Godzilla film out of the Suitimation era. Still, the whole film just kind of meh. The last battle's cool, but the human stuff isn't as interesting as the previous one, but it's meh. I'll say meh. King of the Monsters. This is the start of the Monsterverse when it got a little silly-ish, and it became more of a Marvel MCU style. The biggest thing I dislike about Godzilla King of the Monsters, the 2019 film, is the human stuff. In terms of like some of the dialogue, I cannot stand some of the lines, the comedy relief stuff by the scientist dude or any of that. It takes me out every time. Like, oh yeah, this is one of those Dr. Serizawa let him fight moments. Oh, I loved him when he said that. I'm like, dude, that's not... Like, shut up. The lines that this guy would say. I don't blame the actor because he was acting. He had a job. Some of the directing and the line deliveries and when you're trying to play it so serious and you have all these comedic relief moments, it's just not funny. In terms of special effects, I will say that this film with his visuals and everything is breathtaking. This film, like, there are so many frames of this film that could be a wallpaper, right? Like, it's that good. They nailed Godzilla perfectly in this. In my opinion, King Ghidorah in this is the best incarnation that they've ever done. Wasn't even done by Toho, which I find hilarious. But I do think King Ghidorah in this is the best incarnation because he's like super intimidating, super powerful. It takes a lot for him to go down, like, fantastic stuff. I actually love the Monsterverse Mothra. I think Mothra in this film, and she is awesome. She's such an ass kicker in these films. Rodan also was done very well. I think Rodan also was amazing. 2 was the music. I know a lot of people talk about how the soundtrack of this film is the best. I will admit it is very, very epic, and it definitely gets your blood pumping when the music starts kicking up and the main theme plays. Like, it's nice. It is nice to see a American Godzilla film play the actual theme of Godzilla. It is nice. It was something that 2014 was lacking, and also the future Monsterverse films lack. That was great. Bear McCready, yeah, doing really good. But the human story, the The plot is so thin. I still don't understand the motivations behind wanting to work with the terrorist group or whatever, and blah, 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 blah. And also the guy, I don't remember his name, but the terrorist guy, he was such a wasted villain, by the ways. He could have played such a crucial role in the rest of the films, but they only used him for one film, and that's it. It was like, oh my gosh, like, bleh. Also, like, they don't bring anyone from 2014 in this film, so it sort of disconnects in terms of the continuity. You're not gonna bring Ford Brody. You're not gonna talk to him because he's like one of the people that has had direct connection with Godzilla. Hello? Like, why are you not gonna bring back the character? I don't know. So I've never understood that. Overall, though, it is entertaining of a film, but I find myself dozing off, and to be honest, it is the least watched film I've seen in the Monsterverse, because there's just a part of me that's just like, The scene, though, where Dr. Serizawa sacrifices himself to bring Godzilla back, that was peak. In terms of emotional drama, I will say the Monsterverse nailed it with that. That scene was so great. Great every time. I get chills every time, like, oh, Godzilla X Kong the New Empire. It is what I said on my video. It is cheesy, completely dumb. Doesn't mean that it's great, though. It has jumped the shark in terms of, I can't take this universe seriously anymore at all. It's so goofy. The Showa era incarnate. It is a modern interpretation of that. And I will give it respect to that I understand that that's what the filmmakers were wanting to go for. That was their direction. They wanted to make something that was like the Showa stuff. When the credits rolled, I didn't feel anything because it was just so much. That's what it was. Like, it was a lot. There's just so much stuff happening. I'm like, oh my God. The human stuff is completely paper thin. This is the most thin human plot we've ever had in these Monsterverse films. I mean, we have gone from up here with Skull Island in 2014 down to the bare minimum, right? I mean, it's like the bare minimum for human stuff. I do like how they brought back characters from the previous film. It makes it feel more connected. I do like how some of those characters are back. I will say my favorite character was Gia, because she played a big role in the film, and I actually really liked her in the previous film, and so seeing her again was nice, and I liked how she had a little bit more character development in like finding her place and everything like that. I thought that was nice. Everything else, though, the human stuff was just kind of bleh, like that's just whatever that it was. The special effects, obviously it's a Hollywood budget and they're coming off of Godzilla vs. Kong, so there's really not much I can say in terms of special effects. It is a CGI fest, I mean, for sure. I mean, it is just, everything looks like it's in a video game, but I mean, I'll say for what it was really cool. I do think artistically, I think it was a little too colorful in a way. I know that kind of sounds bad, but there's big emphasis on a lot of saturation with colors. I think Godzilla King of the Monsters did a little bit better in terms of like having these really awesome looking set pieces in terms of visual effects or whatever. Okay, let's talk about Godzilla, right? Everyone's going crazy about Pink Godzilla. Oh my God, what is this? I don't care. I think it looks fine. We've seen Godzilla go through so many different incarnations and versions. I think it's really silly that people are getting upset about a color scheme. Doesn't change anything. Godzilla's still Godzilla. Like, I don't care about that. Godzilla looks cool in this one. I like it. I think he's like a Millennium. He's like a Godzilla 2000 look, you know? He has like a purple pinkish dorsal plates. Kong in this one, obviously this film was a lot about Kong, really. It was more of a Kong film than it was Godzilla, and I went in knowing that, so I wasn't disappointed about that. I will say he definitely can now say that he is like King Kong now. The Power Glove thing was really dumb. The way he got the Power Glove was extremely underwhelming. I won't go further into it, but it was just kind of whatever. It just happens in the film. Like, there's no buildup. It's just like, oh, boom. Okay, he has the Power Glove. Oh, okay. All right, there we go. Suko, Little Kong, I thought I was not gonna like him, but I actually really enjoyed the little character. I actually really dug Little Suko. I thought he was fun. He was cute. He was entertaining. I actually liked that he helped. Like, he actually had a purpose. Like, he actually helped in the film. He did a thing in the film that was like super integral for them to win the battle. I'll leave it at that. Scar King was okay. I would say he's kind of a weird monster villain. A little too humanoid, I guess. Maybe. I don't know. I'm still sort of figuring him out, right? Like, I'm still having to sit with that character. It wasn't as bad as I thought he was going to be, but he was still just kind of like, okay, I mean, he was somewhat intimidating. It felt good when he got his comeuppance, Shimo. I feel like a completely underwhelming character. I don't like what the character was. The relationship between Shimo and Scar King, I didn't really care for. And then what they did with Shimo after, like when the credits rolled, like what Shimo's role is now going to play was very weird. In terms of design, I mean, yeah, she's okay. You know, again, in terms of the fight scenes with Godzilla vs. Kong, of course it was fun. Of course it was entertaining. I'm not going to sit here and watch this film and be like, no, this is boring. Like, no, it was very fun to watch. It was just a lot. There's a reason why you need human stuff to break up the monster stuff. To me, it's just another film in the Monsterverse, and it just doesn't do anything to enhance or innovate on the series. As far as I'm concerned, we can't go back to 2014. It's too late. We have gone so far to the other spectrum that 2014 doesn't even feel like it's in the same series. Like, it really doesn't. Like, looking at 2014 in the Monarch series, I'm like, I don't see how these fit in the same universe. It's that crazy of a difference. Godzilla vs. Kong, I didn't feel anything. Does not mean the films were bad, doesn't mean that I hate them. Kong is very entertaining in this when he's fighting Godzilla. The effects, again, are fantastic looking. It's a spectacle. You know, that's what it is. It's a turn your brain off, watch these two giants fight each other, and that's it. The one thing that killed this film for me in particular when it comes to Godzilla vs. Kong was the introduction of Mechagodzilla being just put in this film for no reason other than just to say, hey, we have a Hollywood Mechagodzilla. And then the final battle happens, and then when Kong decides to help Godzilla, I'm just like, oh my god, they did a Batman versus Superman thing. You've got to be kidding. And I was so disappointed. That poured the film for me. I'm not gonna lie. I can't get over that. Like, I've never been able to get over the fact that, of course, they do the whole team up thing because the directors or the producers, whatever, were too scared to have a definitive winner. So they have to have them sort of team up at the end because no one wants to have one of their monsters lose. I can't stand versus movies where they just team up and then fight the other thing. No, I want to watch Godzilla vs. Kong. I want to watch Batman vs. Superman. I don't want to watch Batman teams up with Superman at the end when there was a slight miscalculate or understanding and then they fight the other big guy. Like, no, that's not what I bought the ticket for. Mechagodzilla himself, not that bad. I mean, he was cool, you know, but yeah. That's just it. Ghidorah the Three-Headed Monster, it's one of the Showa films that I can watch and be somewhat entertained. Introduction of King Ghidorah, though I will say King Ghidorah wasn't really that threatening in this film. To be completely honest, I didn't feel like King Ghidorah was that, like, major of a foe. Liking it more in terms of what it did for the franchise, less in what it actually, like, the film itself. I think the effect that Ghidorah the Three-Headed Monster did for the franchise, introducing this new villain and having, like, a monster tag team battle was, like, a really cool step up in terms of Toho's, like, special effects and visual movie making magic. Godzilla vs. Hedorah, I feel, is, after all these films after 1954, Hedorah went back to a grounded, darker, serious tone. And I've always had this fascination with Hedorah. I just love Hedorah. I think he's an amazing character. I don't know why. I think it's because he's just sort of terrifying looking, but also just so unique compared to everything else that we've seen up to that point. The dark themes and the political aspect of the environmentalism thing there, fantastic. Again, Godzilla using the 68 suit was amazing as well. I mean, it's trippy too, and a lot of the trippy stuff about the film as well. One of the most interesting films out of the Showa series, it was doing something really different. Godzilla vs. King Ghidorah, I would say, was a little bit of a step down just because it went a little more goofy, and it seemed, to be honest, this film seems to be the most disconnected out of the whole Heisei era because of the whole time travel thing. I still sort of don't fully understand the whole time travel thing. Still, it's very entertaining for what it is. The human stuff is okay. Godzilla himself is fantastic. King Ghidorah obviously being a lot more intimidating than he was in the Showa stuff. And also we got introduced to Mecha King Ghidorah, which is like so freaking cool. It was sort of like at this point, maybe up until Destoroyah, where the films in terms of special effects and the way the films looked sort of plateaued. They didn't really get any better looking, I guess, at this point. Now, Godzilla vs. Mechagodzilla, you know, they had a little bit of a dip with Godzilla vs. Mothra, but then they brought it back, got a little bit better in terms of quality, storytelling overall, stuff like that. Definitely a way more interesting and engaging story. The one thing that's weird to me is Rodan and the relationship between baby Godzilla and Godzilla. It's weird. Are they like distant brothers, cousins, whatever? It's kind of interesting. Super Mechagodzilla himself, or I guess Mechagodzilla 93, not a great Mechagodzilla in my opinion, only because Mechagodzilla Mechagodzilla was a giant tank, essentially, and he just didn't have a lot of movement to him, unlike the Showa version and when we get to Kiryu with the Millennium stuff. But overall, I still think that Mechagodzilla is fantastic in this, though. I mean, he's still intimidating. He still kicks Godzilla's butt. For a film that was supposed to be the end of the Heisei series, I think if the series ended with this film, I wouldn't be that disappointed. I do love Destoroyah a lot more, but if this were to be the last one, I'd be okay with that. I'd be like, all right, yeah, that was a good way to end it. Godzilla versus Space Godzilla. I do understand that Space Godzilla has its faults. I do understand that it's not, that it's sort of this film that they felt it just uninspired, and it was like, hey, we have to have a film come out for the anniversary, and it's kind of weird that this was the film we got in terms of like Godzilla's big anniversary. For some reason, I think it's because of Space Godzilla or anything like that. I find the film very enjoyable. Like, it's fun. I don't know, it's very fun. Moguera, I will say, not that interesting. Not a big fan of Moguera, really. Never been. Just kind of there. I actually kind of like it when Moguera gets completely destroyed by Space Godzilla. It's like, yeah, take that boring thing out. The one thing also that I love about this film too is the ending. I actually really love how the ending has the credits, the music at the end. For some reason, I just really love that track. Like how they're off on the, they're next to the beach and the music starts playing. It's just really serene and nice. But definitely happy that the series didn't end with this film, because that would have been a little bit more disappointing. But it's still, I don't know, it's just fun. I know a lot of people don't like Little Godzilla, but I freaking love Little Godzilla. To me, that's what Minya should have been. Like, that's just, that's just me. So, all right, 1998. I do like the 1998 film. And I like it because, like, at the time, I understand why this film was not loved, right? I get it. It's way too different. Godzilla in it is just not, it doesn't feel like Godzilla. I understand that. But here's the thing. Nowadays, right? Like, now, think about what we've gotten in terms of Godzilla nowadays. Shin Godzilla, Monster Planet Godzilla, Godzilla from Singular Point, these different incarnations and radical changes that they've done to the Godzilla character. Zilla doesn't seem so odd anymore, does he? He really seems like, oh, it's just another radical change of the character. But I think the only reason this film didn't do well, or people didn't like it, was because we didn't have anything that radical yet. But now we have. So looking back at 98, it's really not that bad. So when I look at 1998, to me, I'm like, yeah, that is Godzilla, because it's just a different incarnation of him. I no longer am one of those people that are like, well, it's a fun monster movie, but it's not a Godzilla movie. It's like, no, it is a Godzilla movie. It's just a very different Godzilla. I enjoyed it. It's fun. It's entertaining. It's cheesy. It's turn your brain off. It's, it's a 90s version of a Monsterverse film. There you go. What more do you want, right? I love King Kong versus Godzilla 1962. King Kong versus Godzilla, for some reason, was just fun. If you want a good Showa movie, like King Kong vs. Godzilla is like there, and it's I love the characters. I love the overall plot. I love the fighting in it. Like, it's just fantastic. It's just such a fun film, and I think also because the movie it doesn't take itself seriously. Like, even the Japanese version, like it's out to make fun of all the commercialism TV. Again, that final battle is just so fun, to me, at least in my opinion. So moving on to the sequel, Terror of Mechagodzilla. When I first saw this film, I actually initially hated it as a kid. I didn't like it, but that's because I watched the dubbed version, the American version of it. And they cut out a lot of things that make it an amazing film. When later on, it was like many, many years later, I finally got to watch the Japanese version of Terror Mechagodzilla, and it just like everything changed. Like, the film just became a 10 out of 10 for me. The human stuff was so damn good. The human story was so damn good, with like Katsura and then the aliens coming back. I know they're technically different characters, but to me they're like the same dude. Like, I don't know. I know he got his neck shot in the last one, which, by the way, is the gore in these last few Showa films very intense. And then, of course, the final battle was also intense. Titanosaurus, I will admit, Titanosaurus is not one of my favorite characters, but that's a small thing. I could watch these films anytime. Godzilla vs. Mechagodzilla. I love Godzilla vs. Mechagodzilla. This is, in my opinion, the Mechagodzilla duology in the Showa series peak. Me not being a fan of the Showa stuff, I will say the Mechagodzilla films, for some reason, they just nailed it. I don't know how they did it, but the human stuff is interesting. The storyline is intriguing and engaging. The human characters are really engaging, and then the monster stuff is just so great. Godzilla vs. Biollante, being a direct sequel to 84, and I like how there's continuity, and this is where we get into the point where this era had the most continuity. I like how this film directly references 84. There's even that shot where they have like the memorial in that restaurant where it's like Godzilla's footprint in the building. I like that. The human stuff is intriguing and awesome, and Biollante as a monster is great. The special effects are fantastic, and the 89 suit, even though, you know, I love 84 more in terms of the suit design, the Biollante suit, the 89 suit is, you know, would be the suit that they would use, certain design template they would use for the rest of the Heisei era, even though, you know, and it obviously had minor alterations throughout the films, but like that was the suit. And next to Shin Godzilla and -1, the Heisei 89 to 95 suit design, like that look of Godzilla, is like the most iconic suit. Like you'll still see promotions and things using either the 94 design, the 92, or what, like it's just very iconic. Here we have Destoroyah. It's full circle, I feel, with the first film. I know that Destoroyah has some detractors, and I actually know that the film in recent years has been getting less popular, and I don't understand why. It's like some films get more popular over time, some films were popular, but then they start to lose their popularity. I don't really know why. I think it's so good as a film, especially in terms of a finale. If this was the final Godzilla film of all time, right? Like we never got another film, this would be the best way to go out, I feel, at least at the time. Like I really think. Destoroyah as an enemy is really cool. I do think Destoroyah is a little weak though, compared to how intimidating he looks. But I will say though, having the final enemy for Godzilla be a monster created by the Oxygen Destroyer is one of the most amazing things. Like that's such a brilliant idea, right? The music is great. I mean, it's like everything. They just went out with a huge bang, having a lot of nods to the 54 film, and then Godzilla Jr. just being so awesome. And then of course the whole, you know, meltdown, burning Godzilla plot line, super sad. Godzilla Millennium. You know, I go back and forth with this one with Godzilla 2000, but I'm not gonna lie, I love it. I love Godzilla 2000. Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. It was the first Godzilla, well, okay, 98 technically would be the first film that I saw in theaters as a kid, but 2000 was the first Japanese Godzilla film I saw in theaters. I don't really know what there is to hate about Godzilla 2000. You know, the special effects haven't aged well because this is where Toho was starting to use CGI and like green screen effects, and it didn't look great, I'll admit, but I think it's just a fun movie. I think the Millennium design is so cool and iconic looking. Orga is an amazing monster. The music is so great. All right, Godzilla X Mechagodzilla. Kiryu as a Mechagodzilla, I will say here, is my favorite Mechagodzilla version of him because he's like a mix of both the Showa and Heisei. He is very agile, has a cool sleek design, but he also can be a tank. Also, the idea that these are the original bones of Godzilla, like we all know the story. It's fantastic. Like that's such a cool idea. One thing I will say about the Kiryu duology is the human story in it. Actually, I take that back. In the first one with the female main character, she's one of the best female leads in any Godzilla film. She has such an amazing story arc or like character arc in it, and I really love it. It's a very engaging story. Then Godzilla himself is fantastic too. He's mean. He's what Godzilla's supposed to be, really, in my opinion. And the action scenes are great. The defining reason why I like this Mechagodzilla film the most, I like this film more than the Showa Mechagodzilla films for one reason, and I actually like it more than any of the Mechagodzilla stuff, is because this is the only, and no one talks about this, which is so weird, this is the only film that is just Godzilla versus Mechagodzilla. The first one, King Caesar butts in. The second one, Titanosaurus butts in. The Heisei one, Rodan butts in. Later in Tokyo SOS, Mothra butts in. Of course, in Godzilla vs. Kong, Kong is there to mess up the whole fight, right? It is the only film that is just strictly Godzilla fighting Mechagodzilla, and that's what makes it so cool, because you're focused on just those two characters and nothing else is distracting you from them, and I really like that. This film, I mean, you can't go wrong with this film. The music, the special effects, the directing, the characters, the human story, the drama, the monsters themselves, Godzilla himself being one of the most terrifying Godzillas at the time, and just being this unstoppable force. And to be honest, Mothra, she was kind of cool in this one. Not gonna lie. I liked her design. I think Mothra's design in this was pretty good. And I also like how they flipped King Ghidorah's role to being a good guy. I thought that was pretty cool too. Baragon, I love Baragon in this one. I think he's really cute. Very sad that he gets like murdered so fast and in a horrible way. I would have preferred the original pitch where it would have been Anguirus, Baron, and Baragon Paragon to be the Earth Guardians. I still think for what we got, it's still a defining moment in the Godzilla franchise. It's just fantastic. Everything about it. It's 10 out of 10. There's nothing I don't like about it. I will die on this hill. I will die on this hill. Final Wars is like the best thing. Okay, and here's what's really funny. And I actually kind of had to wonder this too. I'm kind of a hypocrite, right? I talk a lot of trash about the Monsterverse being too goofy and crazy and zany and all that stuff. Yet here I am going, Final Wars is the best thing ever. But it's because Final Wars is its own thing. It's not part of a series that started out serious, right? That had a lot of potential and then got silly. No. This film just went in full blown balls to the wall. Here we go. Bam. Final Wars. Like it's awesome. It is so fun. It is the most enjoyable film, and probably the best aspect of this film is the bad guy. There is no other villain in the Godzilla series that is as entertaining to watch as the controller guy, the Controller X dude, whatever. It is the best. I'm so happy Final Wars exists. The fact that Toho came back with a Godzilla film and being super innovative and changing up the status quo and showing us that Toho still has it was amazing. Love the character design. Love Shin Godzilla's look. You know, I understand that some people, they don't like Shin Godzilla because of the fact that there's not really a cast to follow, but that's not the point. Shin Godzilla is a very different film. It's not supposed to be focused on one character. It's supposed to be focused on a group of people that are trying to cut through so much red tape in the government to try and help the country. And the different forms, yeah, they're fine. I mean, I will admit that the first two forms were kind of goofy looking when the fourth form comes on shore, because I know there was like a first form, but we never got to see it. It was like the tadpole look or whatever. It's an experience, and I can watch Shin Godzilla over and over again and never be bored. Like, it's such an engaging film, and I love it so much. Godzilla 2014. Over the years, when I first saw the film, with all the hype train, all that stuff, and you guys were actually there for this back in the day, I would say that I loved it. Then after a few watchings, I went to liking it. Then there was a time where I actually sort of was meh with it, close to being disliking, actually. Because of what the Monsterverse has become lately, and after rewatching Godzilla 2014 a few more times over the years, it has now crawled its way back to S tier for me. There's a lot of reasons why, but the big thing is because 2014, no matter what you say about the Monsterverse, you have to give the Monsterverse praise. Without the Monsterverse, we wouldn't have gotten Shin Godzilla -1. Godzilla would not have continued in Japan. I really don't feel. There's a lot to be said about 2014 of what it did to the franchise, or what it did for the franchise. In terms of the human character stuff in it, I feel next to like Skull Island, I feel like the human stuff in 2014 it was good. After, like, looking at it in hindsight, compared to what the human stuff we have now in the Monsterverse, in my opinion, you can't compete with the 2014 stuff. I still hate the fact they killed off Bryan Cranston halfway through the film. I will admit that was annoying. I'm not going to say that was a good thing. It wasn't. I think Bryan Cranston should have stayed throughout the whole film. In fact, Bryan Cranston should have been a main player throughout like the majority of the Monsterverse, along with Dr. Serizawa. I will say that. But I don't hate Aaron Taylor Johnson as much as people do. I've never fully understood that. I think he plays his character pretty straight, as in terms of a guy who has a lot of past trauma, like childhood trauma, and being a military guy. Like, I just feel like that's how someone would act. The overall special effects with this film, the camera angles, the cinematography, the amount of realism, groundedness that this film has was amazing. The other thing that I dislike though about it was the false advertising. The fact that we thought Godzilla was the big enemy, but it actually was the Mutos. I do think the Mutos are fantastic, but I do think that 2014, it would have been better as a solo film. I really do. It's like 1954 for me. The more I watch 2014, the more I appreciate it, and the more I find new things to love about it. Like, it just happens that way for me. It probably has been the most rewatched film I've seen in the Monsterverse. I love it. The more and more I watch the film, the more and more I fall in love with it, and the more and more I find new stuff to fall in love with it about. It is like the quintessential Godzilla movie. There's nothing really wrong with the first film, and I don't want to sound like one of those fanboys that are like, oh, you can't touch the original, because no, the original has problems, but at the same time, it's like, I don't know, man, like, can't beat it. It's S tier automatically, -1. I'm not going to go too much into it because I made a 30+ minute video reviewing -1, plus like an hour-long discussion on the channel, so go watch that if you want to know like more of my opinions on -1 in detail, but good God, -1, it was literally everything I wanted in a Godzilla film, in a modern Godzilla film. It was dark and serious. Godzilla was the bad guy. The metaphorical allegory, theming, symbolism was there. It was just, the special effects were fantastic. Godzilla himself was the most terrifying Godzilla we've ever seen, and the film was just amazing. I can't get over the fact that we had that -1 came out. I'm like, oh my God, like we really had this kind of film come out. And dare I say, in my opinion, I think -1 is the best Godzilla film ever made to date. I just think that it does everything that a Godzilla movie should do, and it filled everything of my Godzilla bucket that I want. The music was so different and unique and played to the film's strengths. It's fantastic. Go watch my review. Like, it is just, if you want to know more, it is peak Godzilla, and I do think it is the best. It does overtake 54, and I know that might be heresy to say, but the only reason I say that is just because -1 did what 1954 did back in the day. It was that crazy. Return of Godzilla is my all-time favorite. I don't need to really explain, because I've almost my whole time doing GojiFan, I've talked about what I love about Return of Godzilla. Again, it mainly because of the fact that they brought it back to a darker tone. But yeah, I mean, they brought Godzilla back to a dark root. The suit is like one of the best suits next to the 54 suit, because it actually looks terrifying, at least for the time. I'm not going to say the Return of Godzilla suit's terrifying now, but for the time, the suit was fantastic. I love the Saibot, the close-up shots. Even though they haven't aged well, I think the close-up shots are still really cool, especially how Godzilla's like lips quiver. Oh, it's so great. I will say the human's aspect of Return of Godzilla is not as strong as 54, but it still is intriguing enough. I like the idea of figuring out, like, oh, the birds, and Godzilla's attracted to the bird, so let's put him in a volcano. Like, you know, it's just crazy. And definitely watch the Japanese version. The American version is fine, and I know they brought back Raymond Burr, but American version sort of makes a mockery of the film. And the thing is, like, the special effects too, I mean, everything had a higher budget. It just looks at like that. The film just looks so unique. There's no other Godzilla film that looks like it, and it's just so cool. It is my #1 film. Whew. Alright guys, we made it. That was my top 38 Godzilla films, and honestly, what a ride. I know there were probably some picks in there that surprised you, or even probably made some of you angry. I want to thank DinoBoy2005 and Theo for the request, and I want to hear your thoughts in the comments below. What did you agree with, and what did you disagree with? I can't wait to read your opinions, and that's what I got for you guys today. Thank you so much for watching, and as always, stay big, G fans.